Hello, and welcome to another day of TA the Degen way. Want to do a quick little update on the Bitcoin price. I was talking about in the last update just a few days ago how as this market comes down, each step along the way has the potential to have some kind of a reversal. And what we discussed in our last video was this price action after this drop, how we had, let's bump out to the daily real quick, that our current swing, which is this low to this high, if you pull a fib retrace on that, I mean Fibonacci doesn't really have anything to do with that, but it's just how much of this swing has retraced. If we pull it up, I mean it has retraced 1/3. So if we get rid of this, we can see the 1/3 mark. 33% of this swing has retraced. And at the 1/3, I mean you got 25%, the 1/3, the 50%, the 70 to 75% area, looking for price to hold and possibly reverse to the upside. Are we in a downtrend? Well, we are, because we had a clearly identifiable uptrend, and that uptrend broke. So when the trend breaks, do we know that price is going to plummet down to $1,000, or is it going to come down to 25K or 22K or 15K, 8, 10, 12K? We don't. All we know is that the trend has broken. Well, why did the trend break? And that's because of, if we look at the chart, it's because the market reached balance. It lost momentum. And how do we know that that is what happened? I mean, we can look at how much price rose and how long it took. 53 days to go up 57%. Let's take the next swing in the trend. It took 35 days to go up 53%. Less time, but less percentage gain. Then we also have this amount of time in between. And what it is it's the amount of time it takes to rise in price. So I mean, it's the loss of momentum. We can grab a circle or a curve tool, and you can just place a curve on this graph, just looking at, how this price action is rounding over. And truly, I mean, we really should probably be more over here. This is where we put in a double bottom, a lower or a higher low, and then we put in a higher high. The mini little trend reversed. Here's where we put in a higher high and a higher low on the mega trend. So if we take this, I mean, time and price are balanced here. It is what we would call square. Time went up in price this far and went over in time this far, to where it is balanced. It is not rising in percentage value. It's not gaining the same kind of percentage value. There's diminishing returns the more that time goes on, until the trend was exhausted and then the trend broke. We've discussed it multiple times on this channel, but the trend broke weeks ago. This downtrend is 2 months old. I mean, price does not go down forever. It doesn't go up forever. And it won't go sideways forever. But technically, I mean, we are in a sideways market. We're in a minor time frame downtrend, but we are in more of a macro time frame sideways trend. not to say macro, but medium time frame, we're in a sideways trend. I think the macro is still yet to be determined. So, I mean, if we just look at it, I mean, we have been trading in this price range, for quite some time here. And approximately somewhere in the area of, 200 days. I mean, that's a long time. And price has not broke down. It's also not broke up either. But since we broke this trend, what are we looking for? We're looking for how far do we think price will go down? Well, I mean, I have no idea. I have some personal thoughts and reservations that I would like to see price down here. But I mean, when the market doesn't give you what you want, you need to learn to take what it gives. And the way that we know that there's the potential for some kind of a reversal back to the upside or a continuation in the sideways trend is by the momentum and the price action in the market. That's what TA is all about, is gauging the action of the buying and selling. When will the market reverse? Well, when there is a balance, the market will reach a balance between buyers and sellers, and one side will take the lead. And as one side takes the lead, it entices the other side to lay off even more and new participants to come in on the prevailing side. And that's what's going on here. People were super bullish at 15K, and they got less bullish as time went on. People were taking profit. You have people who are exiting part of their position that are trapped from up here. And you get kind of a double whammy, and then it causes price to trend sideways. It breaks trend, scares people, and they sell. Well, now we've had that break of trend, and so each step along the way, 25%, we could look at a third of the swing. We could look at 50% to 61.8 of the swing, the 75 to 78.6, the 80 to 90% range. The last real support level on the swing is about 88.1 to 89% of the swing, which is way down here. But we don't know when and where price will reverse, but what we can do is we can look for signs and signals that the trend, which is now this downtrend, is exhausted, just like this trend was exhausted. We've started a new trend on the smaller time frames to the downside. On the medium time frames, we're still in the same trend sideways. On the macro here, I mean, we are still in, an obvious uptrend. Have we broke structure? Back here we have. Are there some serious concerns about macro double tops and diminishing returns on the weekly and monthly? There is. But if we bump out to the weekly, sometime from, now, as in like immediately to the last week, momentum, this RSI is down here very, very low and starting to print a green dot. And that means these two different averages that this wave is considering, the light blue wave and the dark blue wave, that are offset. One's a look back period of one time and the other is a look back period, one's a shorter time and the other is a look back of a longer time. And when they cross, that's telling you that there's been a change in momentum. And that's what it's telling us, that our current price action, if this week closes and price continues to the upside, that there is a change in momentum. So sometime, and you can see it by following the roundness, that there is a dual argument to be made that there's still a little bit of time left for some more downside. If we kind of follow the curvature of this, you would expect a bottom somewhere in this area, and we got a bottom. And now the next question is, so this downtrend, here's the momentum cycle coming over, here's the price action coming down, and then you put in a higher high and a higher low. So now the question is how far will this trend go? Well, thus far it's only made it to, right here to the 30K range. And then it rolled over to the downside. And we didn't make it up to the 618. We didn't make it up to the 716. If we had it, I would be extremely bullish. I'd be looking for a pullback to the 30K range and a continuation on to new all-time highs. But that didn't happen yet. I see two options. We got to monitor these trends as they move along. So now momentum rolled to the upside, but did we get price rise that brought us back up into our previous range so that when we do our retrace, we come down and catch it? We didn't. We came up to our support resistance flip. If we draw this over here, we came up to the 30K range and we rejected. And the momentum was, if this was our waves down here, it was rolling over to the downside. Price rejected, and it broke trend. Now if price had broken way up here and then pulled, then when the momentum rolls over, price has the opportunity to pull back to support at a much higher level. So we got to monitor these trends in the momentum in the market and see how do we know at what point that sellers have been exhausted on the macro scale. Well, the macro trend and the momentum of the macro trend will start to show signs that that is occurring. And where should we be looking for that? Well, we should have been looking for it at this high anywhere, in here. And we got it right here. And now as price pushed up, I'm just going to delete all this. When price pushed up, we're looking at this trend to decide whether or not we should see some continuation to the downside or, a continuation to the upside. And what we got thus far is a rejection here. But now that we have broken this uptrend and we're clearly trending down in the short time frames, we need to be monitoring the health of this downtrend and looking for potential signs of reversal. Because what could we do? We could put in a right shoulder and come down even farther and continue on down. Or we could push up, retest this area and continue on and then get some type of bigger retrace, or gain, hold this support level and continue on to the upside. But we have to monitor this trend. And what is going on right now that has prompted the title of BTC Bullish Price Action? Well, we're on the weekly. We're in the time frame. If we just take just this little momentum cycle right here, it's not a very good curve. Where would we expect it to bottom? Somewhere in this area. This is how fast it came up and how fast it rolled over. We can say that this here is, a minor swing in the market, well, a medium swing in the market. But we could also include all of this as, some kind of major swing in the market where we would be looking for a high up here. We didn't really get that. We got divergence and then we came back down. So the question is when we start coming down, just like we're looking for how far this came up, we need to look as to how far did this momentum drop drag price down. Did it drag it down to 75% of the trend so that when this momentum rolls back to the upside, if price was down here, when momentum rolls to the upside, well, it now has all this ground to recover. Well, that didn't happen. Not yet. We ended right here, staying stuck in this sideways range. So now we have to assume that this momentum Either we're going to get a rejection at our current price, which we're going to look at on the smaller time frame in just a second, which to me looks bullish. Like this little downtrend, I mean, maybe it's over. Maybe we just come back up and stay in the sideways market and eventually continue on. Maybe we come up and put in the right shoulder and come down. Or maybe we come up and we break through this resistance and retest it. Personally, I'm not really interested in any major long hold positions until the market proves itself that, I went short in this area. So how much of the spread do I lose if I buy back into Bitcoin long up here? If this is the spread, how much of it did I lose? None. I mean, yes, if I re-enter to the long side here and price continues, is the profit potential higher? Well, of course it is. It's exponentially higher. The market's down significantly, and there's exponential gains when moving to the upside. But we don't know that's going to happen. We don't even know it's going to put in the right shoulder. All we know is that we're in a undecided macro with bearish signals all over the place. We've got a weak retrace. We've broken our medium time frame uptrend, and we also are showing some signs of weakness in our short-term downtrend, which means we could stay in this medium time frame sideways trend, kind of like over here. If COVID didn't happen, you can see the price action. If there was no COVID, this would have been a sideways range, and if you go back to the previous, here's your downtrend, your sideways market, your uptrend. Here's your downtrend, here's your sideways market, your uptrend. We could be doing that right now. I don't know that. You don't know that. YouTubers and analysts that pretend they know that are full of it. All we can do is monitor the health of the trend, and currently the short-term downtrend that we've just started is not looking very healthy. So we're looking for, what will this short-term uptrend do? Because we do expect this trend to reverse in this time frame. Here is where the momentum cycle would roll over, and you would expect a bottoming out, and then as this rolls back to the upside, you would expect the largest price increase to be happening in these kind of time periods. The question is we can follow this momentum in cycle, and we know that somewhere right in this area we should be seeing a bottom. Did it drag price way down here? It did not. Same thing as this rolls over to the upside. We need to see how far can it drag price. Does it drag it to the bottom of our range here and we roll over with the head and shoulders? Or is it able to push it up through this resistance and then it rolls over and retests? That is all that can be gauged. So now let's get down into the smaller time frames, and this is why I've closed half of the short position that I've been holding since July 1st. I expect in our current time frame area, for price to see some kind of a rally. I was assuming this might have been it, but I also see a little bit of room for some downside on the weekly still. That green dot hasn't been confirmed. That's just what we've got right now. And if we just delete everything on this chart and we start looking at our downtrend, our downtrend began right here. Let's grab our line tool. It was coming up and along right here, and it broke. So now, we can kind of excuse me, monitor the health of this downtrend. We haven't broke the downtrend yet. But this downtrend, it began to pick up speed right here and trending harder to the downside. And the first signal that we received that this downtrend was weak is rather than reject here, I mean, look at what happened here. Again, we see the market was balanced. You can see it in the price action right here, and you can see it in the momentum oscillator right here. We reached balance. Where would you expect this to trend and start to turn to the downside? Right here. Well, as it rolled to the downside, what happened? Price only pulled back a little bit. It didn't come down here, and then it rolls to the upside and comes up like this. It pulled down this teeny little bit, and then when the momentum rolled back over to the upside, we got this price pump. And if we look at this right here, it has the potential to even continue, and if it can break through this trend, I mean, as much as a short seller wants the market down here, you need to learn to take what the market gives. And if the market doesn't give you what you want, you need to take what it gives. And if this is all it gave for this break of trend is a 1/3 retrace, and then it wants to continue on sideways, well then so be it. Claim your short profits and move on, you know. But what are we also seeing here now? If we delete everything, we broke this here was an increase in speed in the downtrend. So I mean, if we were going to continue just blasting to the downside when we got here, this here should have also, you know, increased in speed, and then it increases in speed, you know, until the curvature to the downside is at full speed, and then all of a sudden it stops. That tells you, you know, and starts to go sideways. That tells you that, you know, sellers have been depleted sufficiently enough to be absorbed by buyers and money coming into the market. That's exactly what happened right here. You have curvature to the downside. And what happened? We reached the edge of it, and the market broke out, went sideways, and it has broken the trend, retested the trend, and pushed to the upside. So now we have to monitor the health of this mini little uptrend here to see, is this going to reject and continue to the downside, or is it going to continue to hold this sideways range, or is it going to bullishly break out, as to whether or not we should be continuing to hold at all to the short side, or should we be looking for long positions. So I mean, this right here, we would have expected when time and price were square, if we were still extremely bearish and you know, the supply of sellers, you know, far outweighed the demand of buyers, we should have rejected here, but we didn't. We pushed up again. But you can see, I mean, once again we are finding ourselves balanced, where buyers versus sellers are currently equal and even. It's going to break up. You don't. It's unknowable. It's just unknowable. But what is knowable is that we are at balance. Now, we need to look and see on this short time frame on the hourly who wins this battle. And when they do win, let's say short sellers win this battle, and the momentum, we can see it down here on the oscillator, looks like it wants to roll over to the downside. So when it rolls over to the downside, if it only brings price down to here, or you know, even here, it has the potential to continue on. That's telling you that there is buyers down here holding the price up, and the ratio of sellers up here versus the ratio of buyers down here is now skewed to the long side. That we can know. What we can't know is, will it happen? But we can look for, I mean, nobody knows what the weather will be tomorrow, but we certainly know what season we're in. You can see the climate changing. The climate of this trend is changing. So, when it changes, let's say price comes down here. Now when momentum rolls to the upside, the question is, how far does it carry it? Does it carry it enough to break back into this range that we're in right now, I mean, you can see it plain as day. Here's all these highs. Here it was support. You know, it flipped it into support but lost it. We are in this price range. So can it push back up in there so that when it rolls over to the downside, it has an opportunity to claim it, or maybe even up here to claim it. Let's say it rolls down and then it pushes back up in here, you know, and then we get to this part in the momentum cycle and it comes down and finds support. I mean, I'm going to hold 50% of my short until we actually break this trend, this real downtrend. If we pop out to the 4 hour, it's much easier to see just because you can see far more price action. But I mean, the downtrend is still intact until we can actually break out of here. And looking at the 4 hour, I mean, what are we getting? Are we getting any signs that momentum is rolling over to the downside? Well, we are. I mean, we have, you can see the curvature of the momentum looks like it wants to break to the downside. You know, here it's building itself out to the downside, and then here it looks like it wants to cap itself off, or else we could take a shorter oscillation in there. We could say, okay, we're at the peak top of it right here, where you would expect it, you know, to be rolling back over to the upside by the first week of October. The question is how far does it actually carry price? And you can see it in the price action. You know, we have the potential to reject, come down, retest, continue. We have the potential to reach balance, hold, and trend sideways, but not break down and break out. Or we have the potential to reach balance and just break out, just like we did here. If we take this smaller oscillation here, price came up, it reached balance, time and price were square. You know, you could draw a little poor drawing, but I mean, you know, there's the curvature of it. I mean, this is square. But what happened when time and price were balanced? Well, the trend changed with a continuation of the same trend. So I am still on the short side, and if we break this trend, I will be neutral, and I will be looking for a large right shoulder and more downside. Or, depending on how far it goes, I mean, if we can break 30K and retest it, I mean, if you know, if this right shoulder comes up, you know, any higher than some of these prices, or even here, I mean, this right here should be a pretty clear signal. This is the last unbroken high after this. You know, if we break this trend on the chart and retest and come up, and we just do this with the right shoulder and come down, I mean, it's going to be bad for the price. I mean, it doesn't look good on the chart. But if we come up and we break through here, or even crack this high, let's say we crack this high with a triple top, and then momentum, I have to get rid of some of this stuff, we come up and we crack this high, and we get kind of a triple top, and then when the momentum rolls to the downside, we only pull back to here, or even here, you know, and we can hold this range. This could very easily just continue on to the upside, or even long term, even if we break down, we could still hold this sideways range and then eventually rotate to the upside. But I want to do an update on the Bitcoin price. That's all I got for you today. If you like the content that's here, well, then support it. Like, share, subscribe, join the Discord, do something. But until next time, trade well.